Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Chakra Meditation Podcast. I'm Roseanne, your host and guide. And today I have another beautiful guest for you, Kelly Sayward, who is a fellow Brit. Always nice I speak to so many Americans. It's nice to just speak to somebody in this time zone for once. And Kelly is a well-being coach and author and has a really beautiful take on the work that we are all, I think, if you're listening to this podcast, working towards trying to do with a lot of different tools at her disposal: mindfulness, meditation, yoga, Reiki, coaching, speaking. She's also got a radio show. I want to hear about that. So welcome, Kelly. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's just spread a little bit of positivity and magic, Kelly style. Your web website and your business is called Room 478. So
That's
do you
right.
want to tell me a little bit about where that came from and how that arose?
Yes, I'd love to. So I have done a lot of self-discovery and practice, and mindfulness and meditation have always been something that I explored on and off, couldn't quite connect with because I always thought I was doing it wrong.
Mm.
Then, when I truly understood the nature of it, I become more passionate about it and the changes it was making for me to be able to live my life a bit freer. And it included simple things like breathing techniques and, yeah, just taking time to do tiny steps that were manageable to come out of a really anxious place. And the 478 breathing technique, which many people might know of, is where you breathe in for 4, hold for 7 and exhale for 8, was one of the only things I could connect with at one time because
Mm.
I was so anxious. I couldn't really do much beyond that. So a long meditation or anything that felt kind of intense, I just couldn't do it. But that was the one thing I could connect with. So after I'd done my initial mindfulness and meditation teacher training, and I wanted to set up a space for other people to come. So my intention was room 478 would be a room that I could do from wherever in the world, whether it be online or in a building or in a workplace or in a school, where people could come and connect with who they are. And the 478, almost like a door number, I suppose, but it's based off that breathing technique. Yeah.
I love that. It's so smart because breath, as a yoga teacher and so on, like breath work is the door to everything. And
Mm,
it's the gateway into so much of connecting with your body, connecting with who you are. And it's so simple. And that in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8 is yeah, it's pure magic. And there's variations on it, clearly, but it's one that is great for, I mean, tell me what you it does for you and what you found out about it.
Well, I think initially, as a starting point, it enabled me to connect with something where my mind didn't have too much time to run away.
Mm.
Because anything longer than that, and I've found things like the Headspace app. I love Andy Puddicombe and his voice. And he would do a countdown thing, and all the time I would drift off. So if we went backwards from 50, I thought, I don't know. I don't know where I'd go. And then I'd get frustrated. Whereas with
Yes.
that, it was the first thing where I thought, I can really connect with this. I can breathe in for 4, I can hold for 7, and I can breathe out for 8. It felt a bit of a struggle at first, the
Mhm.
8. But I think you can do whatever number you want. But for me, it's really good for sleep as well. So at night, when anxiety is often more prominent for people, in the dark of the night and those long dark spaces, when I used to suffer in that way, it was just something that would really calm me down. I could sort of feel my body regulating and I'd be able to go back to sleep.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I read in your one, it must be on your website somewhere, that you, and I think this is a really interesting phrase that I think a lot of people will be kind of slightly surprised by, but also recognize, is that you were addicted to anxiety.
Mm.
Why do you think we are addicted to anxiety? Because I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, it sounds almost insane when you discover that because you think, well, why would I want to be addicted to that? That's not fun. It's not like alcohol or, partying or something that people might think is an escape. But I think
Mm,
we get addicted to things to not have to face the deeper problems. And in life, I've started to realize that things will build up around us anyway, almost as a protection thing. So essentially, anxiety is like a messenger, like a trigger. So if you're curious about anxiety when it rises, you're not anxiety, you're just feeling anxious. So when we start to feel anxious, what's it trying to tell you? And with mindfulness and meditation, I've really been able to now, anytime I have a period of time where anxiety might come up, I can think, okay, what's going on in my life that's bigger than this? What am I trying to hide from? And when
mhm,
I used to Google things or become sort of addicted to what was going on with my health or my body, it was escape, really. And it becomes something
mm.
we know how to do. And I know if someone said to me, can you think of a time when you were anxious? I could get there like that because I know how to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of the most common things I would say amongst my clients, and they come to me with, and they're like, I have just chronic anxiety. I'm just anxious all the time. And they recognize it as a problem in their lives. And I know how I deal with it is by inviting people to really, look deep into it and find out what's underneath. And I'm guessing that's basically what you've just described, is that you have to go deeper and deeper. What's under that? What's under that? What's under that? And also then understand where it can kind of has come from, and that's usually a place of fear. Okay, so where was that fear installed? Where did that fear come from? It may be from somewhere
Mhm.
completely rational, or it may be from somewhere completely irrational. Everybody's got a different relationship with where their fear comes from, but that is essentially where it originates. Is that what your findings are?
Definitely. I
Mm,
think fear takes us away from ourselves all the time, but
yeah.
sometimes being who we are is really challenging because of things that have become habitual or situations that we have to be in. It's difficult. I think I've noticed when working with people and talking to numerous people in different trainings and things that I've done is that we can't choose some of the things that we have to go through or the people that become part of our circle. And it's only when you become stronger and start to understand that being who you are is okay, that you naturally are drawn to places where you feel more yourself, but in turn, you then lose things and people. And that's really difficult and uncomfortable. And you might then feel anxiety around that. And it's just a constant unraveling. But I think the more we unravel, the safer we feel to be freer.
So your invitation is for people to really lean into and work towards discovering who they are. And I love another quote that I've written down here, because this is absolutely, it sounds so simple when you say it out loud, but unless you say it out loud and think about it, you don't, or you might not think about it, which is, don't try to change yourself, find out who you are instead, which
Yeah,
I think is brilliant, because I think even people who enter into this kind of spiritual, mindful meditation work, self-discovery work, they're like, oh, if I'm going to, discover myself, I'm going to discover, I'm going to turn myself into something different or new, or I'm going to change. And that's not something that we are really needing to do, because that's running away from yourself. So how do you encourage people to embrace who they are? Because it's quite a meaty one, that.
it is, and it can feel really scary, I think. But
Mm.
ultimately, I like to, whatever it is that I'm doing in whatever platform or sense that may be, whether it's someone comes in to talk to me on the radio show that I do and they're talking to me about their business, or even if it's through when I run a group where we're just leading a meditation or doing a journaling workshop and inviting people to connect with their own voice. The invitation is really for them to feel safe enough to just explore what's going on without trying to change it. I think we're so often reaching and trying so hard to come
Mm,
out of situations that we kind of lose what just being with something even feels like. And quite
yeah,
often, when we're with whatever the thing is, it starts to almost dissolve by itself. And I know it's not that simple, but quite often I'll ask someone if they come in and they feel really anxious. I might, because a lot of people will come to me about anxiety purely because of my history with it and my focus around that is is quite huge. But I think, how does it feel to be anxious? Where do you feel that in your body? I've done a lot of training with compassionate inquiry and yoga nidra and working with opposites. And it's, well, what's the opposite of anxiety? How does that feel? Can you welcome that in? Can you invite that and sort of go between the two and know that you've got choices? And,
yeah,
fundamentally, there's always a part of us that's okay, but we forget
yeah.
that.
It's such a beautiful remembrance when we realize, and in the moment of anxiety or stress or whatever, we often forget that we have a choice, that we have a choice about how we decide to feel. And I think that a lot of people get stuck into this. So let's, for example, take within relationships, you might be like a people pleaser. You might be codependent. You might have learned that behavior from a parent, a carer, or from a
Mm.
relationship. But that feels like the safe place. I'm just going to run around making sure everybody else is happy. And if you do that for long enough, you forget who you are. You forget what makes you happy. You actually lose touch with that completely. So when you meet somebody who's like that, who's gone to that sort of place where they've spent so much time looking after, and it can be even as a being as a carer, and there are so many amazing people who are carers for family members and so on. You're looking after somebody else, you come last, you forget what you need other than just to lie down and watch television every so often, just to sort of blank everything out, numb everything out, which we do
Mm.
a lot. So how do we as people who have really forgotten what it is that is in our heart's desire and needs, how do you shift out of that? How do you begin to shift out of that?
Well, I think it's breaking it down. And I like that you use the word the heart's desire because in the work I do with the yoga nidra and that practice and working through our bodies, we start with the heart's desire. Like, what's your intention? Why are you
And
here today? Yeah, and it's really beautiful, and I like the fact that this is called the chakra way because as a Reiki practitioner as well, I've evolved my own mindfulness practice to work through the body, and it's starting at the root. We have to start somewhere, sort of feeling grounded, doing a simple breathing technique or a practice just to arrive where you are, just to drop in, and that intention is just to simply give yourself permission to be where you are with whatever is going on and just give yourself
yeah,
a break because it's difficult. Life is difficult, but if we understand that we're going to have difficulties and give ourselves permission to pause, to feel rather than think all the time, to get grounded, to think of your feet with, heavy metal boots on, or, just to feel the weight and move up through like the chakras, that place of creativity and then the self-worth and confidence. Where are you blocked and what does your heart need? And the place of communication. So many people will kind of cough during meditations and things purely because when we get to this place, there's things they want to say and they're
yeah,
not safe enough to say them out loud. So it's the blocks. And yeah, I'm so passionate about it. But I think the first step is just what is your heart's desire? Like you said, what's your intention? What do you want? What do you need right now? We ask other people what they need all the time, but what do we?
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah,
don't do that enough, do we? We really
no.
do that unless you are invited to do it by, and I love the fact that you are so passionate about this because my God, the
Mm.
world needs it. And I want, this is both of our life's passions, I guess, is to get it out there so that people can begin to feel themselves. And you've got a radio show, so you've got a big, so what station are you on, I should ask? Yeah.
So it's Marlow FM, so it's local to me.
Yeah.
It's one of my most wonderful mindful things to do actually. So it's all voluntary. And I do a nature nurture show once a month. I do a lot of other cover and I do drive time, which is just fun because I'm really passionate about mindfulness and music because I think we can meditate with music. You know, if you're really sad or you're going through heartbreak and you play a song on repeat because you want to connect with those words and you just want to feel something safely where you can
Yeah.
cry it out. It's that simple. So I love the music and I love talking to people. So it's just great. So it's called, yeah, the Nature Nurture show I do once a month. I do another show once a month with another lady. And then this year I've done lots of cover and I've just spoken to some amazing people, which is why I was really passionate about speaking to you as well, because I think everybody's got a story and quite often we're led to where we need to go through our own experiences. And then when we've had those experiences and we like give them back out to the universe essentially, we then make a difference. And I had he was a chef actually, because I was covering someone else's show, and most of my stuff is mindful related or well-being or practitioners and things like that. But this particular one, I was asked to interview the chef and the passion and everybody's coming from when you come from here and he shared with me that he just wants people to leave better than they arrived when they've tasted his food. And I thought that's what we all want. When we have people come and see us, we want them to just leave a little bit better than when they
Yeah.
arrived, more connected and in his case, full, you know, of these kind of things. But yeah, I just love talking to people because we're always learning, aren't we? And I just love learning.
Yeah, exactly. We are. I mean, that's why I love doing this podcast because I get to talk to people, like-minded people who will always drop in, even if there's no sort of newfangled thing, always a learning. Sharing and talking about this with people is amazing. And the other day I was at my local pub and I was just chatting to a guy who, 60 something guy, lives in the village, really lovely man. And I was talking to him about what I do, and he was saying, I wouldn't have believed, I would have thought it was all a load of hooey what you teach and what you talk about until I fell ill, and the doctors couldn't find out what it was, and realized that it was just kind of stress related, and my lifestyle and my it wasn't a physical thing, it was it was energetic, and I just we had such a lovely exchange over that. Talking to anybody, if you can get them onto this subject of well-being and how they feel, because why are we so afraid of talking about how we feel? We'll talk about what we've done, our accomplishments, where we've been, who we've seen, what we've eaten, da, da, da. We'll do all of that really happily. But to actually make a proper human connection, you have to talk about what's in your heart. You have to share something vulnerable, really, with somebody to go, oh, now I see a part of you. I don't just see this person that you're presenting, your your outer mask that you want me to see. I'm actually seeing the real you. I'm seeing a little bit of
Mm.
your hearts. And that is connection. And that's where you start to make a difference. And that's where the vibrations go out. And I love what you said about using music. I mean, find I'm, I've realized recently that I'm clairaudient. And I always thought, oh God, why has that song come into my head? Why have I got that song lyric in my head? How really random. I haven't heard that song forever. And I'm now realizing that a song drops into my head and I'm like, okay, let's listen to this. And then the lyrics always have something so important to say. Yeah, it's a very powerful thing to use music, for me anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
love what you said there about things dropping in, because me and a friend of mine, well, often if we go out for coffee or like work brainstorming, if we'll be sat there and sometimes songs will just appear louder and we're like, it's a sign. I'll always tap into signs or numbers or songs or words, and there's always something really important. And I think that's how we get back to being more who we are, freer, when we really trust those things.
mm,
That's where the magic is. And we just kind of look for so long in the wrong places. And I think
exactly.
actually we've got so much just right
It's the-
here.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of the time when I first realized it. I was in India on a yoga retreat, and every time I got into the shower, the a song, didn't really even matter which song, a song from the Rocky Horror Show come into my mind, and I'm like, I haven't watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I haven't heard the soundtrack for ages. I used to be crazy about it when I was young, like, why? What is this saying to me? What has it got to say to me? And,
Yeah.
it took me a while to kind of to realize that it was my higher self going, why don't you just, push the boundaries a little bit? Here you are doing something really new and for yourself. And yeah, it's always a really interesting thing to notice. And you do need to just pay attention. That's all it is. Just pay attention to what's going on, that what sort of little things drop into your mind, because yeah, they will they will show up. You just need to be open and aware to it. So, Kelly, tell me about your book, because I'm always impressed by somebody who's written a book. I just, I feel like there is a book inside me. I just don't know what it is yet, or I'm just, yeah, too busy doing other things at the moment. But tell me about your book.
I know there is a book inside of you, and I think it will come out when the time's right. I really believe in timing. I don't know about you, but I think
Absolutely.
when it's meant to, when something feels so overwhelming, you kind of can't not, that the passion to do it rather than not just takes over.
Yes.
That's kind of what happened with this. And I think I've always written, and I share a bit about this in the book, but I've always loved to write, to understand.
Mm,
And when I was younger, going through difficulties, with there was like mental health in my family, and when you don't want to be a burden or you don't know what's going on, but you want to talk to someone, but you feel embarrassed and you feel shameful or
yeah.
worried. So I would write it down to understand, then burn things and tear up paper and all that kind of stuff. But I'd always write to understand. And I realize it's something I've always done. So, particularly in the past 10 years, I've accumulated a lot of notes, just
Mm,
writing and journaling. And then I think about two or three different occasions, I had a couple of card readings. And one of them said to me, who are you to have all this information on how you've got through anxiety? Not got through it, but I now know how to manage it,
mm,
and not share that with someone because it could potentially help. And I thought, well, it could actually, but because that self-doubt would come in, I'd think, oh, but what I have to say is rubbish. It's not really worthwhile, or someone's probably said this much better. And then I think, but now I understand we connect with people in different ways, and there are certain people out there for everybody. And
yeah.
some people might be sharing these same words as me, but in a different way that people just don't understand, and vice versa. So yeah, I decided to accumulate it into a bit of a book, and all the poems. There's a poem at the start of each chapter. One is called Lean In, actually. So I'm really passionate about leaning into what we're feeling rather than pushing it away. And the poems would just come to me. So it felt almost, how you say when you're hearing the songs, I don't really know, I didn't purposely sit down and think, oh, I'm going to write this poem.
Mm.
I would just write and the poem just kind of came to me, I feel,
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, it's interesting because some people would call that, that it was channeled.
Yeah.
People who are connected with spirit guides go, oh, this was channeled through. But you
Mm.
talk to so many creative people, whether they're writing a song or writing a book or coming up with something, they're like, well, it just came to me. I just sort of arrived fully formed. And you just have to be creatively, heart openly welcoming of that. And yeah, beautiful. Sorry, I interrupted you. Carry on.
No, not at all. But I think that's what it is. And I had an editor for my book. So I self-published it, but I had an editor and she was absolutely amazing. But the one thing I said I couldn't change was the poems. So she really
Mm,
helped me bring the structure. So it didn't because when I'm really passionate about something, I repeat myself in different ways.
Yes.
And I'd done that in my writing. So bless her, she was amazing because where I'd said the same thing in three different ways, she'd say, I think you've said that already, and helped. But with the poems, I said, I can't change them. The
Yeah.
poems have to remain exactly as they were. And it kind of just summarizes each chapter before you read it. So the book's
Yeah.
called Desperate to be Loved because I think we're all looking for that love and connection.
Yeah.
And we just want to feel connected to something. So it's not going out to find your perfect, romantic partner. It's about connecting to the love that we want to feel complete, I suppose. But
Mm.
that's how the book came together anyway. I was finally brave enough to share some things that really helped me a lot.
Have you got any of your poems there?
I have got a book here actually. Yeah.
Do you read us a
I,
poem?
I could read you a poem. Yes. I'll read a short, some of them are quite long, so I'll try and choose a shorter one.
Choose whichever one leaps out at you, or whichever the book opens up at. It'll be the right one.
Okay. I'll flick it and see what chapter. Oh, Mountain Calling. Bit of a random chapter, this one. Okay, so this is chapter 8, Mountain Calling. I see in the distance the mountain calling me, a gentle wave within the breeze, guiding to be free. I don't know how to get there or what I'm supposed to do. I trust in what I feel inside. My gut, it feels it too. Removing all attachment, nowhere for me to hide. What does my life look like with nobody by my side? Always seeking validation through other people's eyes. Never showing all of me, a part held back, but why? People pleasing, fitting in. I continue and I try. A lack of worth and love for the person that is me. Afraid to bare my heart and soul, shy away from humility. Connecting deeper every day, uncertainty reduced. I have all I need inside of me, much love and all my truths. My breath, it holds me once again, imposter at the door. I'm bare and fully open now for what I came here for. I no, lo- I no longer want to be second, a burden or a chore. I see it now, my beauty. My soul, it calls for more. For I can feed it what it needs. I have it all within. Being true to who I am, no longer seen a sin. There we go.
Wow. That's beautiful, Kelly. That's really stunning. It says so much. It says so much. It says everything. How beautiful. What an amazing gift. I love that. You should do more writing of poetry because that's a beautiful gift for it to come out so fluently and so, well, obviously poetically, but mountain calling, that mountain is that, I guess that summit of feeling at peace with yourself, of self-love,
Mm.
and knowing that you have everything within you in that poem is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I feel like it's thinking about it now, it feels like it's a place of strength. In traditional mindfulness, there's a mountain meditation in the training, and I share it on quite often actually. And it's about how strong the mountain is. And, in the winter, it might be raining or it might be covered in snow, and people might just pass it by. In the summer, more people might visit the mountain, when it's all looking beautiful and warm, but it still sits, through all the different weathers. Whoever visits it, when it's quiet and it's just still, and there's that place inside all of us that's just strong and it's okay. And I remind myself of that a lot, actually, more so since I did the yoga nidra training last year, and that there's a place inside all of us that's always okay. We just have to access it. And yeah, yeah, I haven't read that poem for ages, actually.
Well, I'm glad that it fell open at that page. It felt like that encompassed so much. And then, finding ways around um, because I always feel like everybody, people are wanting to, they have this idea of there's more and I need to feel more settled and I need to find that sort of, you know, exit from the room of anxiety, which we kind of can get stuck in, bashing against the walls, but like a fly, just like, how on earth do I get out? But when you've got that sort of, looking for that structure, looking for that way out, looking for the door, that being safe in the knowledge that there is a door, that you need to just keep searching and keep calling for help, because we can't do this all on our own. We all
Mm.
need support. We all need to talk to somebody. We need that human connection. I feel like your work is really accessible. It's really connectable, relatable, and sort of, yeah, just really beautiful to grasp. I love that. So you do speaking. So you go into companies and schools, am I right in thinking?
Yeah, so I'll go anywhere really because I'm so passionate. But I have
Mm.
gone into businesses and done talks, even things like resilience and confidence and strength and growth mindset. It all comes back to the same thing.
Yeah. And
Um,
do you ever go into schools?
yes, so I used to do quite a lot of work with schools, and sadly, the way the school setup is in quite a lot of schools is that I feel children need a lot of one-to-one work, but often it happens in groups. And it's what usually happens is, and I found this I did a year and a half solidly of after school clubs, and I'd go in and do assembly talks and work with each class. Working with classes with the teacher present was brilliant because I do something like the glitter jar, bringing everyone together, showing them how we create space and how to effectively breathe, things like that. But I was doing the after school clubs, you'd always have 50% of the children that didn't want to be there, which would then impact on the learning of the ones that did.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't very effective. And I don't think it bloomed into what I wanted it to.
Mm.
And I did try hard with it, and I do still work with children, but not in the school setting as much now, just due to the setup. And it's a shame because I love going in if the teachers are present because I think you do get a bit more out of it, or if you
Yeah.
work one to one. But
Mm.
the after school club setup for me, it didn't quite work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always have this, having listened to your poem and see how beautifully, and I don't mean this this is in a complimentary way, sort of simple and straightforward it is. I'm thinking, well, it's a belief of mine that I always think that this kind of work, this mindfulness, meditation, breath work, is a tool that we can give to kids really early on. And I think the more that we can introduce them to this, the better. And I say this with a big fat sign on my back that says chicken because I am far too scared to go into a school and talk to a load of children. People used to say, would you come, go and teach in yoga in the school? And I'm like, there's no way I'm teaching yoga to kids. It's terrifying. I would love to. But the more work that I do on this side of it, on the energetic side of it, on the management of self, if you like, the more I realize, my God, if we could just get this into the schools, if we could get this into, parents to talk to their children about this. But really, it needs to be a standard thing, like assembly in classes. Um, and I'm sure that there are lots of kids' books out there that are in this kind of vein. But, they're only bought by the parents who are probably already talking to their kids about this kind of stuff anyway. And it's the
Yeah.
kids that don't have any adults talking to them about this kind of stuff or reading them a lovely book who really, really need it. And so, yeah, I don't know why I've suddenly struck on that, but I see you, you're so gorgeous and relatable. And um, I just, you know,
I
how do we
know. I know, I'm with you. I'm really passionate about particularly teenagers as well, because I think
Yeah,
that's a really difficult age. I struggled a lot as a teenager. And I think if you're struggling and you don't know what to do and you don't know how to get help, we end up being naughty, being
mm,
addicted to all sorts of things, running away from the problems. And kids aren't just angry. They don't just act up because it's fun. Of course, kids will bounce off each other, but the ones that are really struggling, that might be displaying nasty behavior, they're not nasty people. They are just doing nasty things because they don't know how to cope with what life has dealt them.
yeah,
That's why all these things are really powerful. And I led a teenage circle actually, which was brilliant. And just this morning, the mum said, my daughter really wants to come back with her friends to the circle. So it's something I think, right, there's a need for it. So I'm going to start running those again,
yeah,
because I can do that in a setting where people can come to me, because I think we need spaces to just feel safe to feel for a bit. That's it.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, from a chakra point of view, um, there's the sacral chakra is represented by that age, what, 7 to 14, or for me, I try not. I think 7 years for each thing is a little bit. We can be a little bit generous about it, but essentially, the teenage years when you're moving from being a kid, age 7, when life is just easy breezy, chicken nuggets and chips and playing football or whatever, to being a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old, where you realize the enormity of life, you realize the enormity of the responsibility coming your way. You realize how tough it is. You realize you have sexuality, you have to work that out. Then you have to deal with all the new relationships that you have, plus your new relationship with your parents. Like there is so much stuff that goes on as a teenager. And a lot of people talk about, you should, to communicate with your inner child. And that's a lot of damage that has been done in those first formative years, 0 to 7. And I'm not saying that's not important, because it is, but I think that teenage portion, I know when I look back at my life, the programming, the wounds, the belief systems that I'm having to unwind still, because it's a lifelong work, were mostly set up in that teenage to, that young adult life.
Yeah.
And the damage to the sacral energy, which is creativity, which is dealing with your emotions, dealing with your feelings, having healthy one-to-one relationships, is being, unbalanced. The equilibrium is all out of sorts if we're not aware of ourselves, of our feelings, because we block it all out. We're not taught, or certainly I wasn't taught, to feel my emotions, to respect and honor my emotions. They weren't necessarily welcome at the table. So, having to learn all of that. So I think I'm very pleased to hear you need to be rolling this out across the country.
Well, I think what you said there, though, is really important. And I don't have a depth of understanding, but I know there is like an age per chakra. And then the
Mm,
same with brain development. Our brains aren't fully developed till we're 25. And if you think of those three base units, the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus, all of that stuff, the emotional, the sexual development, the relationships, the confidence, the worth, if that isn't all energetically balanced and our brains are developing alongside of that, how do we have any hope with connecting with love effectively and communicating what we want to say to be free?
yeah.
It's just, to me, it seems quite simple now. It's like, well, why are we not working in this way?
No, I mean it's I always say it's like, you're building a 7-story building and your second floor's crumbling. Like, why would you keep building? Like, there's no point. You've got to have those base earth chakras. You have to have them solid and balanced. And most adults need, it's very rare, because I do these chakra readings, very detailed chakra readings that are very intuitive, and I use a pendulum, but they're really very accurate. But it's very rare that I come across those three base ones as like really solid. And if they are really solid, then there's usually nothing going on up in the ethereal, spiritual, it's all packed down there, just like solid, grounded life, real sort of
Yeah.
2D world. Um, but the other thing that happens is if the root, if the earthly chakras aren't really kind of balanced and stable, then it's very easy to disappear into up into the third eye, up into the spiritual realm, up into the clouds. Head in the
Mm.
clouds is a it can be a real issue that you just live up there in a land which is not necessarily connected. We have to have this balance between both, and it does start in those formative years without a shadow of a doubt. And I think around teenagers' sexuality as well, because I think sexuality is confusing. It's much more confusing than it was back when I was a teenager, because I had two options essentially, no, three options, and now there seems to be 15 options, and it's confusing. I think more option, yes, maybe that's really right for some people, but I think the whole gamut of option, not just in sexuality, but the whole sort of who you can be now, um, and the pressure of social media and so on is really discombobulating for teenagers.
Oh, I think it's just massively overwhelming. I've got two teenagers,
Mm,
and I just think it's kind of the opposites again, like you say. Are there more options? Is that great for some people? Is it too many people are just overwhelmed and crumbling? And it's just in life, it's social media. It's great. You and I would have never been connected right now if it weren't for,
yeah,
the wealth of wonder that we have to stay connected. But equally, there's too much out there for people to get their hands on that it's just confusing.
yeah. And
Like,
then
who
we come,
am I?
yeah, exactly. And then we come full circle back to this anxiety and your mission to help people find who they are. So if you had, I don't know, I was going to say three ideas, but like however many you can think of, like real tips of like how do we ask ourselves, or maybe even their questions that we can ask ourselves to find out who we are. Maybe like, are we to ask ourselves, are we trying to change ourselves? That's one big question. But then, what are your top tips on how to find out who you are?
For me, ultimately, without sounding too wishy-washy, I think we have to come back to that place of love. We have to listen to what our heart says. Because I think when we drop in to that place and just pause and listen to what we need, so whether that be you just stop and take a moment and write something down. We don't need to know what we're writing. We just need to see what comes to us, what music you might connect to. How's your breath feeling today? Just ask yourself simple questions. What do I need? Don't overthink the answer. See what comes. I mean, if I'm honest, sometimes I'll sit there and it's like, what do I need? I know I need to rest or stop, but my head's telling me I've got to get 25 jobs done. But actually, the moment we take the tiny pauses, we can tune into these different parts of our body, and then the confidence naturally rises for us to just be with what's going on, and we move through things easier. I've got two girls, and hormones and difficulty, growing up, and quite often I'll just say, ask yourself, what is it you need?
Mm.
Half the time we don't even know, and that's because we just don't stop to ask. So
So true.
meditation for me, sorry, is
I just
the
said that is so true, so true. Just what do I need?
yeah,
Yeah.
like what do you need today? Or even how do I feel?
Mm.
Sometimes we just block these emotions together like happy, sad, angry, or ecstatic, but there's a range of emotions that we might be feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm quite an emotional person. I cry probably more than is welcomed in this house. But it's not a problem. So my children could pass me crying, and it's actually naturally accepted. It's not a let's fix mum.
Mm.
Let's try and fix her, because we have to feel things. We need to welcome. My favorite word of the year is welcoming. I think if we welcome what we need, how we feel, who we are, the whole process is just easier. Just pausing to take a breath, just to listen, not judge or try and find an outcome, just simply welcome what's going on, I would say is the first step for anyone,
Yeah.
personally.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you. and it when you were saying that, what I was thinking of was in a yoga class when I'm teaching a yoga class, and we're doing something that's maybe slightly challenging, maybe the hamstrings are going ouch or inner knees, or I don't know, something's there's a resistance within the body. And I always invite people to just go, okay, so you're feeling it. Like, I can see someone's pulling a face or they've stopped breathing or something. And I'm like, okay, so that thing that you're sitting with now, whatever it is, just allow it to be there. Welcome it in, just as you say, just allow it to be. Just let it be there. And it's the same with grief or anger or frustration. Just let it be there. Any emotion that's difficult, any resistance in our bodies, in our lives, just allow it, welcome it. I think that's a beautiful welcome word for the year. Because as soon as we welcome something in, it sort of relaxes. It's like, oh, I'm allowed to be here. Oh,
Yeah. It provides freedom, doesn't it? It's just,
yeah.
yeah, rather than, and that's when people will say, "Oh, what does meditation bring to me?" I often say this when people don't understand what meditation is. I always say it's not about having a clear mind. It's not about sitting cross-legged like the Buddha. And I'm really passionate about the Buddhist traditions, within the work I
Yeah.
do. But it's not that. It's being open to be aware of what's happening. Like you touched on earlier, it's the moment we can become aware of what's happening, we've then got the power to do something with it. And you're giving it the freedom to move through you. It's children when they're little and they leave, like go into someone's house and they don't want the play date or whatever you call it to be over. They cry. They cry and scream because they don't want to leave. And that's kind of a form of grief. But it's what they're doing is they're naturally feeling upset because they're leaving. And that's fine. But
And they
then
express it as it
yeah,
comes. There's no
exactly.
shoving it down and suppressing it and going, oh no, that's not allowed, or I shouldn't, or I couldn't, or yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Kelly, tell everybody where they can get hold of you and what sort of things they will find when they come to look at your offerings.
Okay, so my website is room478.co.uk or .com. So just if you type in room478, I should come up. Most things are on there. I am having my website revamped due to some training that I've done, but it's still largely as it's going to be. So you can find links to my YouTube channel, which is room478 or 5 Minute Thoughts. I'm on Instagram. Again, it's room478. And most people don't know what it means to start with, but I feel like as I evolve, it still holds a place. It can still be a welcoming to come and
Yeah,
see me at this place. So you can find me if you put room 478 in, you should find most things about me and all the classes I do. I'm starting some free meditations online again because I've had quite a demand to do something online, which I haven't done for a while. So details of that will be on there. Yeah, so reach out, any questions. I always love to give people time. Yeah.
lovely. Thank you. Thanks so much for your time today, Kelly. It's been an absolute delight. Good chat with you all day.
Ah, I know. I've absolutely loved meeting you too. So thank you for welcoming me on. And yeah, I think everything you do is fantastic. I totally resonate and align with. And I've learned something new from you today, which I'm going to tap into, is where you said about the songs. When the songs come into your head, I've never really thought about it like that because I listen to music, but actually I'll sometimes have a song come to me, but I've never looked at it in that, what's
Yeah,
this? So I love that. So thank you for that.
you're really welcome. Oh, well, thanks, Kelly. We'll speak soon, hopefully.
Yes, we will. Thank you.